So you've been thinking about quitting your church job because they aren't paying you what you feel you deserve, or there's just a lot of church politics and nonsense going on there that you want to get away from. But you're wondering whether or not you should do it now or wait until you get a better offer, or you're just unsure. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you why staying there under these conditions is a huge mistake and why you should probably quit now. And I'm going to give you the perfect way to quit if it comes to that. So I know there may be a lot of things going on at your church you're playing at now that has you like really frustrated and thinking about leaving there. And it's like, man, if I quit now, am I going to find a better opportunity, a better church job? Or will this church job I get be just as bad or worse than the one I'm at now? And that really is something to think about. But even with that, there are some really serious reasons why staying there under these conditions and you feeling like that is like not a really good idea, and it may hurt you in the long run. So I remember some time ago, me and this other musician were playing together at this church, and we were good friends and we worked well together and everything was going great. People would literally refer to us as like the dream team of musicians because we just worked so well together. But at some point I started noticing these little subtle things that he was doing, like he would start showing up late for church and the church services and all of that when he had never done that before. He would start like parking his car away from everybody else that parked in the parking lot and all of that kind of stuff. And he just really had this disposition of, he seemed unhappy. But as it turns out, I wasn't the only person who noticed it. The pastor of the church actually noticed this sort of difference in his behavior too, and he called me in to ask me about what was going on with this guy. And I kind of took up for him because honestly, I didn't really know what was going on either. So I just was like, you know, maybe he has a lot going on and stuff like that. He'll probably be okay. And the pastor was just like, okay. And so later that night, I called the guy and kind of talked to him and told him what was going on and asked him about what was going on with him. And as I suspected, he was unhappy and he was really thinking about quitting. But before he could like voice his opinions to the pastor and all of that kind of stuff, about 2 weeks later, the pastor called him in the office and fired him because he wasn't doing his job effectively. And this is one of the biggest reasons why staying at a church that you're unhappy at and you're thinking about quitting at is a really bad idea, because people will sense it and you run the risk of getting fired. Now, those sort of dream team musician situations aren't really that common, because there was another situation where I was playing at a church many years ago, and there was about 4 or 5 of us musicians there on staff, and we were all really cool with each other for the most part, and we got along. But there was just this one musician there that no matter what, I just didn't jive with. Like really, he was the type of person that I generally don't like having around me in my circles. Like he was really just a negative person and he complained about everything. And he was like super arrogant and thought that the world like really revolved around him and what he wanted. And to add to that, he would never take responsibility for anything, even in the times where things were his fault, like mistakes in the music where he would clearly mess up. Instead of him taking responsibility and saying, you know, hey, my bad, he would literally blame other people for his mistakes. And the worst part of it for me was that even though he wasn't, he would always try to act like he was in charge and try to command and tell people what to do. And that just really irritated me. And it made it really hard for me to like want to show up there, because it was like not a fun situation. So it was like, man, I don't even want to be here no more. But as a result of that situation, I turned down many other lucrative opportunities. When I heard that someone like that was going to be a part of that opportunity, I was just like, nope, can't do it. So another critical reason why you may want to consider quitting now when you're feeling like you're feeling is if you have a situation where you're not getting along with or beefing with the other musicians, or even beefing with the pastor. Now, right before we get to the next reason, which is a really big reason, by the way, if you're getting value out of this video so far, or if you've gotten value out of any of my videos on this channel, do me a quick favor and hit the like button on this video. That really helps out with the YouTube algorithms and all of that, and it lets me know you appreciate this content. Now, have you ever heard the saying that good enough is the enemy of excellence? Well, it's very likely that you're playing for a good enough church right now, because So many churches are like this these days. Like, you really need a new keyboard or a new set of drums, or you need to upgrade some equipment or something like that. But the church won't do it because what you have works and it's good enough. Or maybe you just want to do some upgrades to the music department and get some new stage monitors, or maybe even go in-ears if you don't have those already. But the church won't give you a budget for them because what you have is working pretty okay and it's good enough. And it's things like this that keeps so many churches operating in mediocrity, because they talk a big game about excellence and about wanting to do things in excellence and all of that. But when it comes time to taking action, to actually put some action in place to make things excellent, it's always that it's just good enough the way it is. And here's the kicker about the whole thing. That whole sort of paradigm of operating in mediocrity is going to make you tired and frustrated, because you're going to be in a position of wanting to do some things. You're not going to be able to get the budget you want or get the help or assistance that you want. And you're eventually just going to be like, okay, forget it. I'm tired of dealing with it. And you're going to stay there and you're going to start operating in that same mediocrity of good enough. So a vital reason to quit right now, if you're feeling like that, is if the church is not willing to invest in the music department or assist in things like that, and they're operating in this sort of good enough attitude. Okay, so now you're saying, Terrence, yeah, I hear you. I agree with these reasons, but how do I quit now in a way that can help me transition really easily and quickly, and in a way that I don't burn any bridges and, I don't waste any opportunities and things like that? Well, first, the most important thing that you can do right now is to keep doing your job where you are to the best of your ability. Don't start slacking and showing up late and not learning the music and all of that. And the reason is because when you actually do decide to leave there, you want to leave on as blameless terms as possible, which just means you don't want to leave on like really bad terms or anything like that. And also something that's important is to make sure that you at least have one other opportunity lined up, so that when you leave, you can transition easily and go to your next thing. But from there, what you want to do is, when you're quitting, is you want to write a formal letter letting them know that you're quitting or resigning, and let them know what your last day will be. And typically that's either 2 weeks out or 30 days out, depending on how you want to do it. And you want to keep this letter as simple and as sort of straightforward as possible. And you can put your reasons for leaving on there if you want, although that's something that's not necessary. But one thing that you do want to put on there is, your gratitude and your thanks for the sort of opportunity and the experience that you've had working there. And the most important part of this letter is that you offer what's called transition assistance. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It just means helping them transition you out and transition someone else in. So that could mean like helping them find someone else if that's the case, or helping the person that they do find get acclimated to things there before you actually leave. And the reason that this is so important is because it's going to show that you're professional, and it's going to show that you're leaving on good terms with yourself and that you don't have any sort of animosity or bad blood with them. Even if you sort of do inside, you're going to show in your letter that that's not the case. And then what you do from there is really simple. You just end the letter with something positive, like well wishes. So like wishing them well in the future and hoping that they do well and all of that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier is about making sure that you don't get fired first before you actually quit. But actually, that's something you really can't avoid unless you know some really specific things about yourself. And I promise you, once you know them, you will be in a position to like never get fired from anywhere. And I talk about those things in this video right here, so you should definitely head over and check it out right now.